Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Learning with Anila Qadri. This video will give you detailed information about chapter number 2 of Principles of Management. In this chapter, we are going to find out answer of 5 basic questions. Describe the 8 steps in decision making process. Develop your skill at being creative. Question number 2 will be explain the 4 ways managers make decisions. Question number 3 will be classify decisions and decision making conditions. Question 4 will be describe how biases affect decision making. Know how to recognize when you are decision making errors and biases and what to do about it. And last question of this chapter will be identify effective decision making techniques. So let's start with first question. Be a better decision maker. A key to success in management and in your career is knowing how to be an effective decision maker. What is a decision? Decision is a choice among two or more alternatives. Decision making. Making a choice from two or more alternatives. The decision making process. Identify a problem and decision criteria and allocating weights to the criteria. Developing, analyzing, and selecting an alternative that can resolve the problem. Implementing the selected alternative. Evaluating the decision's effectiveness. Here you can see diagrammatical representation of decision-making process. You can have a look at 8 different steps of decision making. Identify a problem. What is problem? An obstacle that makes it difficult to achieve a desired goal or purpose. Every decision starts with a problem, a discrepancy between an existing and a desired condition. For example, Amanda is a sales manager whose representatives or agents need new laptops. Characteristics of problems. A problem becomes a problem when a manager becomes aware of it. There is pressure to solve the problem. The manager must have the authority, information, or resources needed to solve the problem. Step 2. Identify the decision criteria. Decision criteria are factors that are important to resolving the problem. For example, Amanda decides that memory and storage capabilities, display quality, battery life, warranty, and carrying weight are the relevant criteria in her decision. Decision criteria are factors that are important or relevant to resolving the problem. For example, cost that will be incurred, investments required, risk likely to be encountered, chance of failure, outcomes that are desired, growth of the firm. Step 3. Allocate weights to the criteria. If the relevant criteria are not equally important. The decision maker must weigh the items in order to give them the correct priority in decision. For example, the weighted criteria for Amanda's computer purchase are shown in Figure 2.2. Allocate weights to the criteria. How? A simple way is to give the most important criterion a weight of 10 and then assign weights to the rest using that standard. Of course, you could choose any number as the highest weight. The weighted criteria for our example is shown here. For example, you can have a look. Criterion, memory and storage. We are going to weight memory and storage 10. Battery life will be weighted as 8. Carrying weight will be important as 6. Warranty will be given 4 marks and display quality will be at number 3. Step 4. Develop alternatives. List viable alternatives that could solve the problem. For example, Amanda identifies 8 laptops as possible choices. Decision maker needs to be creative and the alternatives are only listed, not evaluated. Here you can have a look at possible alternatives. Step 6. Select an alternative. Choose the alternative that generates the highest total in step 5. In our example, Amanda would choose the Dell Inspiron because it scored higher than all other alternatives. In this figure, you will find out evaluation of alternatives. Step 7. Implement the alternative. Put the chosen alternative into action. By conveying the decision to those affected and get their commitment to it. We know that if the people who must implement a decision participate in the process, they are more likely to support it. Step 7. Implement the alternative. Another thing managers may need to do during implementation is reassess the environment for any changes, especially if it's a long-term decision. Evaluate decision-making effectiveness. Evaluate the result or outcome of the decision to see if the problem was resolved. If it was not resolved, what went wrong? Was the problem incorrectly defined? Were errors made when evaluating alternatives? Was the right alternative selected but poorly implemented? The answers might lead you to redo an earlier step or might even require starting the whole process over. If you really want to understand decision-making process, you have to do group work. For example, I need to buy a car. The important criteria was price 10, security 8, economy 6, warranty 4. Think as a team and decide which car you choose. Decision managers may make. Planning and organizing. Planning. What are organizations' long-term objectives? What strategies will best achieve those objectives? What should the organization's short-term objectives be? How difficult should individual goals be? Organizing. How many employees should I have report directly to me? How much centralization should there be in an organization? How should jobs be designed? When should the organization implement a different structure? Next step will be leading. How do I handle employees that appear to be unmotivated? What is the most effective leadership style in a given situation? How will a specific change affect worker productivity? When is the right time to stimulate conflict? Controlling. What activities in the organization need to be controlled? How should those activities be controlled? When is a performance deviation significant? What type of management information system should the organization have? Rationality. Rational decision making. Choices that are logical and consistent and maximize value. Assumptions of rationality. Rational decision maker is logical and objective. Problem faced is clear and unambiguous. Decision maker would have clear, specific goal and be aware of all alternatives and consequences. The alternative that maximizes achieving this goal will be selected. Decisions are made in the best interest of organization. Assumptions of rationality. The problem is clear and unambiguous. A single, well-defined goal is to be achieved. All alternatives and consequences are known. Preferences are clear. Preferences are constant and stable. No time or cost constraints exist. Final choice will maximize payoff. Making decisions. Bounded rationality. Managers make decisions rationally, but are limited, bounded by their ability to process information. Assumptions are that decision makers will not seek out or have knowledge of all alternatives. Will satisfies choose the first alternative encountered that satisfactorily solves the problem, rather than maximize the outcome of their decision by considering all alternatives and choosing the best one. Influences on making decisions. Escalation of commitment. Increasing or continuing a commitment to previous decision despite mounting evidence that the decision may have been wrong. For example, positive experience in dealing with some suppliers currently suffers bad financial performance, strongly influenced by the organization's culture, internal politics, power considerations. The role of intuition, intuitive decision making. What is intuition? Intuitive decision making. Making decisions on the basis of experience, feelings, and accumulated judgment. You can have a look on detail of what is intuition. Intuition is basically experience-based decision, which means managers make decisions based on their past experiences. Intuition means affect-initiated decisions, which means managers make decisions based on the feelings or emotions. Intuition is a cognitive-based decisions, which means managers make decisions based on skills, knowledge, and training. Intuition is subconscious mental processing, which means managers use data from subconscious mind to help them make decisions. Intuition is values or ethics based decisions, which means managers make decisions based on ethical values or conflicts. Evidence-based management. Evidence-based management, the systematic use of the best available evidence to improve management practice. Any decision-making process is likely to be enhanced through the use of relevant and reliable evidence. Problems and decisions. Structured problems involve goals that clear, are familiar, have occurred before, are easily and completely defined. Information about the problem is available and complete. Program decisions are repetitive decisions that can be handled by a routine approach. For example, registration process at IUG. Types of program decisions. A policy, a general guideline for making a decision about a structured problem. System, for example, accept all customer returned merchandise. Students have the right to review his final mark. The recruitment must start from job vacancy announcement. Types of program decisions. A procedure, a series of interrelated steps that a manager can use to respond, applying a policy to a structured problem. For example, follow all steps for completing merchandise return documentation. Purchasing procedures. Follow the steps for reviewing marks. Recruitment procedures. Registration procedures. Types of program decisions. A rule, an explicit statement that limits what a manager or employee can or cannot do in carrying out the steps involved in a procedure. For example, managers must approve all refunds over $50. No credit purchases are refunded for cash. Reviewing marks can be within the first week of publishing final results. Problems and decisions. Problems that are new or unusual and for which information is ambiguous or incomplete. Problems that will require custom-made decisions or solutions. Non-program decisions. Decisions that are unique and non-recurring, infrequent. Decisions that generate unique responses. For example, making a decision regarding opening a second branch in a new geographical area. Few decisions in the real world are either fully programmed or non-programmed. Types of problems and types of decisions and levels in the organization. There are basically two types of problems: unstructured and well-structured. There are basically two levels in the organization: top level and low level. There are basically two types of decisions: programmed decisions and non-programmed decisions. Programmed versus non-programmed decisions. In programmed decisions, type of problem will be structured. In non-programmed decisions, type of problem will be unstructured. For programmed decisions, managerial level will be lower. For unprogrammed decisions, managerial level will be higher, or you can say top. For programmed decisions, frequency will be repetitive and routine. For non-programmed decisions, frequency will be new and unusual. For programmed decisions, information will be readily available. For non-programmed decisions, information will be ambiguous or incomplete. For programmed decisions, goals will be clear and specific. For non-programmed decisions, goals will be vague. For programmed decisions, time frame for solution will be short. For non-programmed decisions, time frame for solution will be relatively long. For programmed decisions, solution relies on procedures, rules, and policies. For non-programmed decisions, solution relies on judgment and creativity. Decision-making conditions. Certainty. A situation in which a manager can make accurate decisions because all outcomes are known. For example, putting a deposit in a bank. The annual return on it is known. Risk. A situation in which the decision maker is able to estimate the likelihood of certain outcomes. Uncertainty. A situation in which a decision maker has neither certainty nor reasonable probability estimates available. Managing risk. Managers can use historical data or secondary information to assign probabilities to different alternatives. This is used to calculate expected value, the expected return from each possible outcome, by multiplying expected revenue by the probability of each alternative. Here is a chart given related to expected value. Decision-making conditions. Uncertainty is a situation in which the decision maker has neither certainty nor reasonable probability estimates available. The choice of alternative is influenced by the limited amount of information available. It is also influenced by the psychological orientation of decision maker. An optimistic manager will follow a maximal choice, maximizing the maximum possible payoffs. One will pursue a maximum choice, maximizing the minimum possible payoffs. The manager who desires to minimize the maximum regret will opt for a minimax choice or regret. Decision-making conditions. Uncertainty. Limited of information prevents estimation of outcome. Probabilities for alternatives associated with the problem and may force managers to rely on intuition, hunches, and gut feelings. Maximum. The optimistic manager's choice to maximize the maximum payoffs. For example, S4. Maximin. The pessimistic manager's choice to maximize the minimum payoff. For example, S3. Minimax. The manager's choice to minimize his maximum regret. For example, S4. Here is a diagram, or you can say table, which is showing you clear picture of payoff matrix. Slide is showing you table of regret matrix. Here is an exercise. I need to establish an hotel in Gaza. The income depends on political and economic situation. There is a competition. The estimated annual income revenue in billions or millions US dollar. What is heuristics? Heuristics or rules of thumb can help make sense of complex, uncertain, or ambiguous information. However, they can also lead to errors and biases in processing and evaluating information. Decision-making biases. We can say common decision-making biases. Number 1, overconfidence. Number 2, immediate gratification. Number 3, anchoring effect. Number 4, selective perception. Number 5, confirmation. Number 6, framing. Number 7, availability. Number 8, representation. Number 9, randomness. Number 10, sunk cost. Number 11, self-serving. And 12 is hindsight. Decision-making biases and errors. Heuristics, trial and error method. Using rules of thumb to simplify decision-making based on past experience. Trial and error method. Overconfidence bias. Holding unrealistically positive views of oneself and one's performance. Immediate gratification bias, or we can say short-term thinking. Choosing alternatives that offer immediate rewards and that to avoid immediate cost. Anchor strongly linked. Fixation on initial information and ignoring subsequent information. Selective perception. Selecting, organizing, and interpreting events based on the decision maker's biased perceptions. For example, first impression about price, impression about new investment. Confirmation bias. Seeking out information that reaffirms past choices and discounting contradictory information. Decision-making biases and errors. Framing bias. Selecting and highlighting certain aspects of a situation while ignoring other aspects. For example, focus on revenue and ignore maintenance skills. Availability bias. Losing decision making objectivity by focusing on the most recent events. Representation bias. Drawing analogies, likeness, and seeking identical situations when none exist. For example, considers last summer revenue the same for this year. Randomness bias. Creating unfounded meaning out of random events. For example, event happened by chance. For example, making high profit because of having high stock of paints and Israel prevented paints from entry. Decision making biases and errors. Sunk cost errors. Forgetting that current actions cannot correct past events and relate only to future consequences. Self-serving bias. Taking quick credit for successes and blaming outside factors for failures. Hindsight or observation bias. Mistakenly believing that an event could have been predicted once the actual outcome is known after the fact. For example, let us start producing and we'll see the customer reaction. Overview of managerial decision making. Decision making process may include decision making approach that can consist on rationality, bounded rationality, and intuition. Decision making process can be decision making errors and biases. Decision choosing best alternative, maximizing, satisfying, implementing, and evaluating. There can be types of problems and type of decisions. Well-structured, programmed, unstructured, non-programmed. Decision-making conditions. It can be certainty, it can be risk, it can be uncertainty. Guidelines for making effective decisions. Understand cultural differences. Create standards for good decision making. Know when it is time to call it quits. Use an effective decision making process. Develop your ability to think clearly. Characteristics for decision making process. Focuses on what is important. Is logical and consistent. Acknowledge subjective and analytical thinking. Blends analytical with intuitive thinking. Requires only as much information as is needed to resolve particular dilemma. Encourages the gathering of relevant information. Is straightforward, reliable, easy to use, and flexible. Design thinking and decision making. Design thinking. Approaching management problems as designers approach design problems. Big data and decision making. Big data, the vast amount of quantifiable data that can be analyzed by highly sophisticated data processing, can be a powerful tool in decision making, but collecting and analyzing data for data's sake is wasted effort. Linear, non-linear thinking style. Source of information used. External data or internal, such as intuition. How he processed that information. Linear, rational, logic and analytic, or non-linear, intuitive and creative. Linear thinking style. Prefer use external data and process it through rational and logic. Non-linear style. Prefer use internal source of information and process it by intuition. Next one, decision-making styles. Ways of thinking. Rational, orderly and consistent. Intuitive, creative and unique. Tolerance for ambiguity. Low tolerance require consistency and order. High tolerance requires multiple thoughts simultaneously. Decision-making styles. You can have a look. Basically, there are four decision-making styles: analytics, conceptual, directive, and behavioral. Decision-making styles. Types of decision makers. Number one, directive. Use minimal information and consider few alternatives. For example, buying a Chinese one bad. Analytical. Make careful decisions in unique situations. Few alternatives. For example, developing a program for purchasing and warehousing. Conceptual. Maintain a broad outlook and consider many alternatives in making long-term decisions. For example, deciding of opening a small business. Behavioral. Avoid conflict by working well with others and being receptive, open to suggestions. Types of decision makers. Most managers realistically probably have a dominant style and alternate styles, with some relying almost exclusively on their dominant style and others being more flexible depending on the situation. So guys, now we are on review learning objective 2.1. Question 1. Describe the 8 steps in decision making process. Number 1. Identify problem. Number 2. Identify decision criteria. Number 3. Weight the criteria. Number 4. Develop alternatives. Number 5. Analyze alternatives. Number 6. Select alternative. Number 7. Implement alternative. And number 8. Evaluate decision effectiveness. Here is Review Learning Objective 2.2. Explain the 4 ways managers make decisions. Assumptions of rationality. The problem is clear and unambiguous. A single, well-defined goal is to be achieved. All alternatives and consequences are known. The final choice will maximize the payoff. Review Learning Objective 2.2. Satisficing. When decision makers accept solutions that are good enough. Escalation of commitment. Managers increase commitment to a decision even when they have evidence it may have been a wrong decision. Intuitive decision making. Making decisions on the basis of experience, feelings, and accumulated judgment. Evidence-based management. A manager makes decisions based on the best available evidence. Here is Review Learning Objective 2.3. Classify decisions and decision-making conditions. Program decisions are repetitive decisions that can be handled by a routine approach and are used when the problem being resolved is straightforward, familiar, and easily defined, structured. Non-program decisions are unique decisions that require a custom-made solution and are used when the problems are new or unusual, unstructured, and for which information is ambiguous or incomplete. Here you can have a look. Review Learning Objective 2.3. Classify decisions and decision-making conditions. Certainty is a situation in which a manager can make accurate decisions because all outcomes are known. Risk is a situation in which a manager can estimate the likelihood of certain outcomes. Uncertainty is a situation in which a manager is not certain about the outcomes and can't even make reasonable probability estimates. Review Learning Objective 2.4. Describe how biases affect decision making. The 12 common decision making errors and biases are: overconfidence, immediate gratification, anchoring effect, selective perception, confirmation, framing, availability, representation, randomness, sunk cost, self-serving, and hindsight. Here you can see Review Learning Objective 2.5. Identify effective decision-making techniques. An effective decision-making process focuses on what is important, is logical and consistent, acknowledges subjective and objective thinking, and blends analytical and intuitive approaches, requires only enough information as is needed to solve a problem, encourages and guides gathering relevant information and informed opinions, is straightforward, reliable, easy to use, and flexible. Design thinking. Approaching management problems as designers approach design problems. Big data. When tampered with good judgment, it can be a powerful tool in decision making. Keep watching my channel for my next video. Thank you.